This is a short video to go through the main features of the HobbyKing HCopter frame. I've been using this now for 2 or 3 weeks, and some good things, some bad things. I wanted to run through the various little features of it really, just so if anyone's thinking of buying this, they can go in with their eyes open. First of all, let's talk about dimensions. It's pretty big. From front to back, it's 18.5 inches. Lots of room for electronics, for both FPV gear, your flight controller, and also your GPS receivers and your radio gear. From side to side, it's about 19 inches from motor to motor. The body is about 3 inches wide, and the distance from the front to back rotors is about 41 centimeters. Sorry to change scale. So let's look at the model in a little bit more detail. Let's talk about the good points. First thing, it's cheap. It's less than $35, so in the UK that's just over £20 for the frame. That includes everything, including the fasteners, the feet, all the bolts, the bits and pieces that you need to put this thing together. So it's probably cheap enough to buy a couple, so you've got one for spares. Second good thing, it actually looked quite good. I like these flashes of green along the side. There's also green here in the slats of the motor supports. You know, it looks fine for you know, HCopters are never particularly attractive, but this one does the job. Let's talk about the things that aren't as great. First of all, this center section here, I've had to make a plate to mount the KK 2.5, sorry, beg your pardon, the APM 2.5 on, and a carbon plate on the top to protect it, because there's another stand that fits over here. The mounting holes are perfect for the KK 2.0 board, but if you want to put an APM 2.5, you have to take all that off, and because there's a big hole underneath this board here which allows you to get to the cables and bits and pieces, you have to block that off with another piece of plastic or carbon fibre. So that's not a great design feature. If you're going to use it with the KK 2.0, fantastic. If you're not, you're going to have to get your Dremel out and start cutting some carbon fibre up to make a mount. Second thing that isn't fantastic is these legs are pretty flimsy. If I kind of push down on here, you can see that they're not really solid. They're probably easy to bend back if you have a really hard crash, but it does mean that you're going to have to be prepared to replace them if you have a hard landing and you really bend one. The legs themselves are actually made of metal. I think I would have preferred a bendable plastic, something that would have taken a crash a little bit better, but I expect that I'll probably end up having to fashion a pair or two of these over the coming months as I fly this model a little bit more. Third thing I don't like about the model is there's no access port. These bolts here that hold the top plate to the bottom plate and also keep these rails at the side in place actually go all the way through. So to take the top or bottom plate off to get to the inside where you run some of the wires and the electronics to keep it nice and tidy, you have to take all of the nuts and bolts off of the entire thing, including both of all 4 of the arms as well as the bits and pieces. That essentially means that the model falls apart. That's not great if you just want to reroute a single cable, or you want to make a slight change to the way the layout is inside the model. You have to be prepared to juggle a lot of pieces together to try and get it back in one place. It would have been better if the middle section was separate and could be dropped out so that you can get into it, or to have a central hatch that could be fastened so that you could get into the middle and check wiring and do other bits and pieces without taking the entire model apart. Also not a great fan of these arms. The way they're designed is that this is a pivot point here. These 2 bolts actually connect the arm to the rest of the frame, and the idea is if you only have this bolt in, the arm can swing back and be stored by the side of the frame, which is great. Love that idea. I thought that's going to make it really easy to transport. In reality, the bottom of this locking nut that would stop you from rolling it around is actually hidden away underneath the landing gear right in here, so you can't get to it. The landing gear would actually benefit from being moved back 2 or 3 centimeters, which I may do later, and this would then be used like a locking pin with a wing nut or something, and then that would allow you to move these arms out into position. It's something that's shown in the pictures on the HobbyKing website, but in reality, once you've built the model, the arms are locked in this position. When I originally put this model together, I was using much smaller motors. These are D35369 910 kV motors with 11 by 4.7 props, and it hovers about 60% throttle, but then this is a pretty heavy model. It's nearly 2 kilograms with all the electronics and the batteries in. The challenge with this is that the motor mount itself is this single piece of it's not carbon fibre, whatever that is, held on with 2 bolts. Now, with a high-speed motor, what I found was I wasn't really seeing that much flex. However, there was problems when I'm flying with these lower speed motors. I seem to be hitting harmonics, because I don't know if I hold this here, you can actually see that I can bend the mount and the mount's flexing. Not strong enough. I've actually got some CNC versions of these on their way. I've ordered them from eBay. I'll put a video of those on when they arrive, but it means that if you're going to put decent sized motors on this model, you're going to have to reinforce this bit. That's not enough for a motor for a heavy quad. So here we are looking at the side of the model again. If you actually look how deep the space is in between, it's about 1 centimetre between the 2 plates. That doesn't leave you a lot of room. You could get a speed controller flat in, but if you're running multiple cables, you're trying to do your power distribution in there as well, or you want to mount something like a couple of Dean's connectors into a power distribution board for an on-screen display, which I have in here, it gets really tight really quick. It would benefit from being 2 or 3 millimeters deeper, and if you really wanted to do that, you can actually probably make spacers that would actually go under these bolts and actually give you a little bit more room inside. I've managed to make it all fit, but trying to make it all fit while the frame was in separate parts and then hold it all together while I put the bolts in, well, it looked like I was juggling electronic components, but it all went together. In summary then, it's a fantastic frame for the money. I think if you only want to spend $30, $40 on a frame that comes with all the bits and pieces you need to load up, this will do the job for you. Got lots of room on top, and for that money I'd probably buy 2 and keep 1 with a set of spares. But you do get what you pay for a certain extent. Things like the motor mount, the lack of space, the inflexibility of the mount for the flight control system if you don't have a KK 2.0, and some of the other things that we've gone through mean that there are compromises you have to make. Hopefully that's been useful. If you're looking at this model, don't let this put you off. I think if you go in with your eyes open, you can put this thing together and have a great flyer. I think you just have to make sure that you're ordering the extra bits and pieces you need, and you're prepared to do a little bit of work to make it right for you. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, and happy flying.